Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be sharing someone else's story about their Saturn return. So my wonderful friend has allowed me to use her chart and share her story. I've also circled some other things that I want to talk about that were going on during the time of her Saturn return that definitely influence it because, every time we look at a chart, we can't just say, it's just Saturn return. There's always other things that are influencing our experience. And of course, there's probably more than just what I circled, but these are the main things that really stood out when she shared her story with me. So, as I've said before in many of my other videos, with outer planets, either aspects or transits, we can feel them a lot sooner than they actually are exact, especially if you're very in tune and very self-aware of the energy. And I mean, I guess even if you're not, because in her case, she wasn't really into astrology during this time and she felt it. So, according to Placidus, her Saturn return started officially September 18th, 2015, and ended around December 20th, 2017. So I got those dates by looking at when did Saturn enter Sagittarius? Because her natal Saturn is Sagittarius, meaning when Saturn enters Sagittarius again, we call that the Saturn return. So despite it not officially starting until September 18th, 2015, she recalls feeling a lot of heaviness as early as July 2014. So she had told me, I was feeling it in 2014. So her experience is very different than mine, but very similar to what I'm sure many of you have experienced or heard, because the Saturn return has a bad rap for being difficult, but it's not always difficult, right? But a lot of times it is. So she basically just said she learned a lot during this time and she shared her story with me. So I'm going to try to keep it in order, but the biggest thing that she experienced that she remembers was really, not only traumatizing, but just really difficult was a 9-year relationship ended. Now, this was a long time thing coming. She said it wasn't like it happened overnight, but she slowly started noticing things about this person. And then the relationship fell apart around July or August 2014. And she learned that this person was basically living a double life, was not who she thought they were. And they were together for 9 years. So, due to that relationship ending, she lost her job. I guess they worked together in the same community or something. I can't actually recall. But so she didn't have a job, didn't have this stability that she thought she had, right, with this person, this life with this person. And then over that year, she said she moved 5 to 6 times. She was unemployed from about, I believe she said September 2014 through May 2015. She had moved cities during this time. She had to live with her friend a few different times. She struggled to find a job. At times, she said a lot of her stuff was just in her car because she didn't have a home base, really. She was just trying to, put her life together again after it had essentially fallen apart because of this relationship. Um, then she was on unemployment, but then that ran out. And then so she had to move back with her friend. And even though she was working, she still couldn't get an apartment because you need to be working for a certain amount of time and have pay stubs and all that. So she had to live with her friend for, I think she said about 4 months or so until she could get approved for an apartment on her own. And then in September of 2015, she moved into the apartment that she ended up staying in until January of 2022. So I find that really interesting that literally as soon as her Saturn return was like more or less exact, when Saturn moved into Sag, that's when she found some stability on her own. Um, so that was kind of her story. She just recalls it being very difficult, just feeling like I can't win kind of thing, right? Like this is falling apart. I don't have money. I don't have a job. Like I'm living out of people's homes. Like that's a lot of stress. But what I find really interesting is she actually got into grad school. I had to point this out to her. She got into grad school in August of 2017. So almost right before her Saturn return was over, in December of 2017, she got into a grad program. So Saturn makes us grow up, right? It doesn't mean that we were immature before. It's just like going into grad school is kind of a grown-up thing to do, right? Going into any school to further your career and advance your life or whatever, increase your income, whatever you want to call it. That is more of what I'd call adulting. So she got a new apartment. She got out of this relationship that was not like, Saturn's going to destroy anything that's not stable. So of course she's happy that she's not with that person anymore, but it didn't make it easier, right? But Saturn's going to remove anything that's not stable. So her living in that city with that person, working where he worked, that wasn't stable for her. So the universe is like, we got to take it all away. So they took that all away, and then she had to find her own way on her own. And her own way on her own, that's kind of the same thing. But anyways, so that is very Saturn return. Now, the other thing I want to point out, so in the red, you can see, I circled her Saturn return. And then part of her Saturn return was actually in the eighth house, right? Eventually, Saturn moved into that ninth house. So I find that really interesting because Saturn was in her eighth house when money, right? Money with others. So she didn't have, this to rely on this partner anymore. She had to work for herself. The eighth house is heavy, right? It's other people's stuff. It's traumas. It's dramas. It's other people's money. It's sex and all that. So I think this person was cheating. So she had a lot of heaviness to deal with for the first part of her Saturn return. And then when Saturn actually moved into the ninth house, then we see her eventually getting into grad school, and the ninth house can rule higher learning. So super interesting. So I thought I'd throw that in there. The other two things I circled were the nodes. So I always like to look at where the nodes are no matter what transit we're going through, because they are going to color it, because they're always somewhere. And as you can see, the north node was in her seventh house, and the south node was in her first house, because they're always, opposite. Now the north node is sorry, I said the seventh house already, and the south node in her first house. So this is a me we axis, right? So often when we see the south node somewhere, we're letting go of something. So sometimes we would think, oh my gosh, I'm letting go of singletonhood or being single. I'm entering a relationship because the north node is in the seventh. But from her experience, she was letting go of part of her identity, right? When you've been with someone for that long and lived somewhere for that long, like that becomes like 9 years, right? That's a long time. I've only been with my partner for 8. It seems like a lifetime. Like 9 years, that's a long time to be with someone. So she had to let go of that. Funny that it's in Aries, because I believe her ex-partner was in Aries too. I don't know if that means anything, but and then the North Node was pushing her into better relationships. And sometimes to get into those better relationships, we have to let go of something else. So it's really interesting, her experience. And then she ended up moving cities and making all these brand new friends who are now still her friends. So I find that very interesting as well. So a big part of her Saturn return was that relationship, letting go of that relationship, be like having to go through all that pain, um, and heartache, and just devastation, and really paving the way for herself, which she has done. And now she is living a great life, and she's done school, and um, I don't think she wants to go back to her Saturn return, but I think now, especially because she is, into astrology, she understands why that had to happen, and that she used this term that I totally am going to steal from her, that she turned her pain into purpose, right? It's like she took that and just transformed it. She could have just, moped around, but she just was like, I got to get a life. I got to get my life together. I got to get an apartment. I got to get a better job. I got to get my education. And I will say the job that she ended up getting there, I think she worked 2 jobs. So she had to work 2 jobs up until I would say recently. So she, the jobs weren't easy. They were, stressful jobs, didn't pay her worth. So Saturn's going to make you hustle. And now she's in a job that really sees her worth, which is wonderful. But her summary, when I asked her, what did you learn from your Saturn return, was that she learned that Saturn, pushes you to become the best version of yourself, and will essentially force you out of situations that no longer serve you, but it's for your own good. So she believes, and her experience is that she grew in all areas of her life, but she really learned to stand on her own 2 feet. She doesn't discount that it was it wasn't easy, right? She said it was extremely rough, but she learned so much. So for anyone who is going through their Saturn return, or is about to, and you feel like it's a relationship thing, I hope that this story can help you. It always works out. It might be some challenging years. And I want to say, like, I don't know that her, like, it's not like she was miserable for her whole Saturn return. She made some really wonderful friends. She dated new people. She, um, got really, and I will also say her in her natal chart, her North Node is in Taurus, I believe, too. So, I mean, sustainability, self-sufficiency, right? So, all that colors into her experience. But if you are going through this, know that it's happening for a bigger reason that you might not understand right now. And it's, you know, Saturn wants the best for us. I know it does not feel like that. And if you have experienced a similar Saturn return like this, I'd love to hear your story. And did you have similar placements? Like, what were your nodes doing at the time of Saturn? So I hope that this was helpful for everyone. Please like, comment, share, and stay tuned for some more videos.